Okay, so I've kind of given you an outline of, you know, where things are, what's going on with the different things. There's our little icon. Kind of the structure of your project. Now what I want to do is I want to change the look of this. So I mentioned earlier that you've got your code layout. You'll notice that the colors are not the same as Visual Studio's. I don't like that. The layout is different. I don't like that either. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this task list, which I never use and don't want. I'm going to go ahead and pull this over to the side. The outline I don't really need in this perspective. You'll notice up here there's the concept of a perspective, and what it is this is your interface for this perspective. So this is like your coding perspective. When you're writing your Java code, you're in this perspective, and then when we start debugging, it will automatically create a new perspective called debug, which will give you some of the interfaces that you need for debugging, but you don't necessarily need when you're coding. So I'm going to continue to shuffle things around a little bit. So I need my properties window. So I'm going to say window, show view, and then I'm going to find properties. It's not there, so I'm going to click other, and I'm going to look for it in here. There it is. And I want this to be down here. So that's looking a little bit more like Visual Studio. And then when it's compiling or it's doing something, it's downloading, whatever, you have something called a progress indicator. So I'm going to drop that on here, and I'm going to dump it down there so that my progress is always visible, so I know when things are going on. And then what it'll do is when you hit the compile button, it'll put this big dialog right in the front of your program, and I don't really like that. There's an option to run in the background. You check that checkbox, you click run in the background, and it will run down here. There's also a little indicator down in the corner as well. So that will kind of clean up your interface a little bit. A couple other things we're going to need. We're going to need other Android logcat. Basically, whenever you say in Visual Studio, you may say debug.print or debug.println or something like that. Some kind of a message, a log. Your logcat is where that information goes. You say log.e for error, log.d for debug, you know, whatever. Log.e, and there's your error message. Log.i is for information, that kind of thing. And that would be put down into this window down here. What else? Search results. I'm just going to go down there. We need the console. Whenever you start building or downloading, compiling, whatever, it'll give like a status here. You want to take note of this display selected console. There are multiple consoles. The one that you're interested in is Android, so you click on that, and that gives you your Android console. View. I think that should be about it for now. Alright, so now we have our interface looking a little bit more like the layout of Visual Studio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close this down. I don't want to be prompted. Yes. Do you want to save? Sure. Now I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to grab the settings. And these settings are from here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up those settings, and I'm going to extract them to my workspace. So I'm going to go out to my workspace. You'll notice this .meta, and I'm going to go to plugins, and then org.eclipse.core.runtime. I'm going to go in there and you have this settings folder. So we'll navigate out to that to take a look at it real quick. Runtime settings. So here you have where your settings are stored for Eclipse, or most of them. So I'm going to go ahead and say extract that here. Yes, I want to overwrite all of them, and you're done. So that just updated my settings. Now I'm going to go back into Eclipse. And you'll notice that it's saying, well, there's two things that came up. Open usage dialog. Eclipse wants to know how you're using the project or the product and what things you're doing with it. I'm not interested in participating, so I'm going to say turn off this UDC feature. Hit finish. Since I imported settings from a different project, which pointed to a different SDK folder, it's complaining about that. So I'm going to open up preferences, and I'm going to find my my SDK again. I put that out here, and there it is. And then you hit apply, and it says, oh, I'm happy again. Cool. So now you'll notice that out here, the colors have changed. And that's because I imported my settings, which included color settings. And so now the interface looks a lot more like Visual Studio. The colors are the same. But if you go over to the XML has not been changed because that's a different kind of settings. So I'm going to open up this XML coloring. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see that. So basically what I want to do is I want to modify the colors to look more like Visual Studio, which is like this. So I go into Windows, Preferences, and then I search for color. And the one that I'm interested in is, doesn't list it. Try XML. There we go. So XML color syntax, that's what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to first change this to like pink, which will make it stand out. And you can see, there's my little equal signs. Okay, so I go back over here, I see in here it's blue, so I will set that to blue. Attribute names, you can probably guess what these are just by looking at them. Attribute names, I'm going to say are red, and it will change them. Attribute values are blue, that's correct. C data is going to be gray, and then blue for the delimiter. So I'll change this to gray, change the delimiter to blue. Content is going to be this green color, and then the delimiter I'm going to make blue. Content, black is fine, that's this normal stuff here. Declaration delimiter, I'm not sure what that one is, so I'll make it pink. Oh, okay, it's right there, and I'll look up over here, and that's blue. So I'll change that to blue. And then you just keep going down the line. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit till I'm all done. Alright, so I've just finished setting up all the different settings. As you can see here, the interface looks just like my screenshot. So I'm going to hit apply, hit OK, and ta-da! Now my XML looks just like Visual Studio, which is much easier to read. Go into here, this looks just like Visual Studio.